to focus the early lane phase to just help top, and even all the skirmishes he played perfectly as much as he can. And it's he wasn't losing his lead. One time he got caught on bottom, but that was a well played by Zeus. It's actually just a skimming bush. But the thing is besides that, he actually played perfect.
It was pretty much a perfect game from the mid and the jungle, right? We expected Cuz to get a lot of votes as well. We considered going for the Cuz votes. I think that in this case, it just comes down to very early on the lead, the priority in mid, the roam up to the top side. Then you get some of the, and you can see right here a bunch of votes for jungle as well as one vote for lands, which I think is fine.
It made sense for Cuz as well, but I mean, that's the whole thing about this KT roster lineup, is that you can carry on every side of the map. We'll see how T1 can adapt onto that as they will play on blue side. For second game, casters, take it away.
Thank you so much, Astronauts, for the breakdown of game number one. Yeah, bit of a shellacking here from our first place team. KT kind of dominating, a wry smile on BDD's face there as well. Still, one of my favorite things to retweet in the world is just BDD tweeting a smiley face.
Yeah.
Just feels great, especially after remembering some of the hardships in his past on that Nongshim roster that just never really got off the ground.
Maybe it's
like that.
Maybe it's time to rewrite the Hero Man smiles meme, you know? And T1 will pick blue side here. So a lot can change in this upcoming draft here. For example, they might be able to get the Xayah pick for Gumayusi. Let's see if KT are going to actually leave that Kai'Sa open. I don't think so, but they certainly could try to bait some stuff out, because you give Sejuani Jax to KT Rolster, and I think you've got a different story than what we saw he had those picks.
Now, I would agree. I'm wondering where the Kai'Sa pick is going to land, though, because T1, they may even ban it on the blue side here. Now that they have a bit of extra flexibility, the Rel is going to be taken off the board. That is their adaptation from game number one. But Poppy and Xayah still remain on the bench. And I think not changing up the bans makes a lot of sense on the KT side, right? They're requiring T1 to make those adjustments moving into this game, and they're going to get rid of the Zeri as well. The Alistar, the only thing remaining from their ban list of game number one. That means things like Nico, Kai'Sa, still left up. Aatrox, still up and available as well. KT can ban that one away here. We'll see what they do decide to actually remove. I think Kai'Sa makes a lot of sense.
Kai'Sa's the safest one, but Faker on Nico does sound a little bit scary. You've also given over the Sejuani, and despite an early accident, let's say here for the side of T1, they could have played out the Sejuani quite well, but things fell apart very early, so we didn't even get to see how that was going to work out. I don't think as KT that means that you should just say, well, T1 can't play this. It's not going to happen. I like, though, the Nico more because it's a really easy-to-pilot champion in lane, and Faker's engages, despite his lack of gold in the last game, were pretty good, too. So it's a great pick for Faker right now. And
I would agree.
The trade-off, though, is
Tristana.
Sejuani Jax, Tristana, and you don't even have to necessarily get the Tristana right now. You may still end up with it, because I don't think T1's going to put Nico in the jungle, and you can take the whole thing. I mean, Sejuani, Jax, and then say, all right, what are you playing, T1? We're definitely going to get that Tristana. And the Nico into Tristana matchup can be a little bit difficult to play, because Nico obviously can shut the Tristana down, can poke a little bit, has a little bit more range. Will be Sejuani Renekton as the consideration here, though, for KT. Just not enjoying the early Jax levels here, especially with Renekton open.
I actually really like the Renekton pick. It's not only, a champion that Keen has played 16 times this season, just an absurd number. Not quite the win rate that Kingen has, I don't believe, who's still sitting on 100%. But still, this combination is pretty tried and true. The Nautilus to be considered here, of course, Lehens was a bit of a menace on that pick last time. And so that will be the lock away. And I imagine that Faker is going to grab a pick for Gumayusi that he's going to be happy with. We'll see what it is actually going to be. Oh, never mind. The Nocturne does come in. Something that was banned against Ona a lot in the previous series. And BDD thinking about the LeBlanc. This is something we've seen banned, but not picked very much recently.
I personally think LeBlanc is the best answer to Nico in this meta. It's one of the only champions that can match her on a flank and just obliterate her 1v1. She can't beat you. She can't stop you. If she ults on the flank, you're like, cool, I've already done my job. And they'll take the Azir instead here for a little bit more safety and a little bit more prowess in lane. As you didn't go for the Maokai, so you're not taking the Jace here. You've got the Renekton Azir combo, which offers you a lot of early mid-game power as well as some decent scaling with the Azir. Now you're going to start targeting away some of these picks here for Zeus, taking away the Aatrox, and you could ban Jax here as well, because Jax does synergize quite well with the engage that T1 have. It's a little bit more difficult to pinpoint what Guma is going to play because the champion pool still fairly open here. Yeah, you don't have the Xayah, the Kai'Sa, and the Zeri, but there's a lot of other scaling picks here and follow-up, dive picks to what T1 have. So I'd rather see something like a Jax ban here for KT. We'll see what they decide.
Yeah, we'll see what they go
Gnar.
to. The Gnar is going to be taken away, of course, Zeus. Basically, his two favorite champions at the moment. The Gnar has been actually very, very good in his hands, and the Aatrox needs no introduction if you watched anything yesterday. I'm really surprised by the Rakan being banned away here, because Keria, yeah, he went on a bit of an expedition in the last game, but we've seen Nocturne Rakan be so extraordinarily good, and they instead decide to pick away the Nautilus from Lehens. He is now hovering Taric. But I don't know whether that is actually what's going to happen, because, of course, Leona is up, and she's going to provide a lot of engage opportunity here for Lehens.
I think Leona is just the better version of Braum. You and I were having a little candid conversation about this earlier before the show. Now, Draven here really suits this comp. Samira, also pretty decent, but I like the Draven a lot more, because what you're looking for here is T1 as explosive early mid-game fights with Nocturne, Nautilus, Neeko. Dive aggressively and just get this Draven extremely ahead if you can. And what can be a follow-up here for Zeus is a little bit of scaling, but also potentially some side lane pressure. The Rumble,
I like it.
The Rumble is really easy to set up, actually, in this draft. You have the Nocturne on your side, but it is going to be a laning phase where the Rumble should be favored. We say this all the time, but one small error can just delete Rumble from the game. You make one mistake, or Kluz comes up there, Sejuani Renekton gets a kill early, and then suddenly you just make no impact. As a final choice here will be Aiming's champion. It will just be the Aphelios here in this scaling draft. Wouldn't mind it. Doesn't feel great, but it's, I think, the best fit.
Thankfully, it is the Varus instead, although it is probably the lethality variety, so it does feel a little bit like there's a I guess, use by date on a composition that does have a Varus.
The best pick here, I think, would have been the Ezreal for Aiming. Obviously, it's one of his best champions, but that one was banned away. And there isn't really a great champion here that is going to allow you to escape the hard engage opportunities that T1 have. So both the Varus and the Aphelios are very immobile champions who won't be able to get out of getting caught by anything, even with Cleanse, as you can see Aiming has picked up here. But what the Varus gives you, the Aphelios doesn't, is some follow-up and some range, so you can actually just sit there and wait for T1's engage, and then your follow-up is easier. And the Aphelios, if they come at you hard, you can offer a little bit more sustained damage. You know, talking about regular Aphelios versus the lethality variant of the Varus, which I think we're 100% going to see. Both picks very strong here, I think, with the draft, but the Varus just going to be at arm's length, hopefully for Aiming in this game if he's going to find success, because there's a lot of ways to get on top of this very squishy pick.
Yeah, we'll see whether they can actually snowball it so it finds some effectiveness. If you were watching yesterday, the Varus didn't quite work out for Deft. We'll see whether Aiming can find a little bit more success. Of course, you do need to have the game going in your favor. KT have been kind of used to that, but I love this draft from T1. It is pretty all in for the early game, but I think that they also have a lot of team fight power as the game goes on. And if they can get some cash-ins for this Draven, then it could be really tough for KT, who have solid draft. You know, their top side very, very strong. Feels like a similar version to what we saw from T1 in Game 1. See how it works out on the other side. Ooh, KT fans in full voice today. As we saw yesterday, the T1 fans were definitely winning out as far as those chants are concerned, feeling a little bit more even this time. It's KT all just milling about here towards the bottom side, thinking that they could maybe steal away a first blood, but the 5-point defense system here for T1 is going to work out just fine, and no one is going to overstep.
So the tanks for the Draven are not actual tanks, they're just engaged champions that set him up to press a big ult button and then clean up team fights while everyone is caught in CC. And so T1 can front to back in that way with the burn damage from the equalizer. But I think if this Draven is not ahead and doesn't get a cash in early, if the Rumble falls behind for any reason, just a gank incident, right? Because Nocturne early level is pretty weak. If Rumble's trying to push some early advantages, could get punished, then the game becomes very lopsided. I think there's no world in which when we tick over to 20 minutes in this game and Baron spawns, we don't know who's winning this game. I just don't see it being a close one just because of how these comps operate against each other. Is level 1?
Yeah, it's pretty volatile as Hook is going to land max range as the Zenith Blade is going to miss. Amy's flashing away though as Gumayusi's flashing after him. There's an early cash in, Wolf, and you asking when we were going to know. I don't know whether we know exactly just yet, but it's a pretty good start for T1.
Yeah, and it's a miss from Lehens on the Zenith Blade that starts it all off. They try to play aggressively here afterwards regardless. And as far as you have to know that even with Halo Blades, you're not going to win out the early trades against Draven's damage. His early stats are quite strong. Even at level 1, if he can get into range to hit somebody, he will. And now a flash is burned here.
And Ignite is going to be used here to make sure that Keen gets out of the lane. In the olden days, that would have also given you some extra AD and AP, but not anymore. Just going to send a message to Keen.
Yeah, message received, I think, with another Comet proccing here as well with the Flamethrower. Keen has Fury, though, and is going to trade back. That's what happens in this matchup as Owner at level 3.
Yeah, he is going to bounce on over. Does have the health advantage here as Cuz going to be tagged with the Duskbringer. No smite to come through, and only going to get slowed down, but is going to be able to steal away the camp. Really nicely done, just brute forcing his way in. As Keen, yeah, he's really on struggle street right now, not wanting to back just yet, and can at least use this minion wave to try and block harpoons. Gets himself the cannon.
Spacing perfect here from Zeus, not taking that turret shot there, still putting the damage on, still trying to push Keen out of lane. And Keen's doing a great job of farming this out regardless here, but is under a lot of pressure. Could look for an empowered stun here if Zeus gets the turret aggro by mistake. But he's not going to make that mistake, and that's going to be that. Just going to use the Fury to clear and back. So first teleport already burned. And this is what you need to do with Ignite because you don't have teleport yourself, but it's a favorable matchup in the early game.
Ooh, Cuz is going to get spotted here by Ona. It is towards the top side. There's the flash forward. And Cuz, I don't know whether he's going to be able to make it out of this one. He's not. No Arctic Assault available. And he is just going to die. That is a second kill as even Zeus is getting ahead. And man, the 3-0 predictors starting to feel a little bit worried in this game.
The early game for this, as you mentioned, the Renekton win rate, 15-1, only the one loss.
Whoa, that's a flash forward as Stand Aside does come through. Fair bit of value there as once again, Lehens doesn't find a lot of joy with his Zenith Blade. Still, it is going to be a slight advantage there from KT as they get control of the wave.
So Cuz on the top side of the map trying to make a play, it looks like with Keen's teleport, trying to punish Zeus for looking for potentially a plate, for example. Teleport comes through, you set up that kill onto the Rumble, and then advantage Keen, right? But unfortunately, he does not find that success. The Rumble picks up an early kill, and Keen, instantly half health here right after his teleport, is going to have to choke through these potions to try to stay relevant.
And this is just a Doran's ring as well. Like, Zeus hasn't even gone for a first back, which is going to be Sork Shoes and just such pain. As the hook is going to connect. Kerry, I'm not sure about that one. As the Ignite is going to tick down, there's the Permafrost. He does get within turret range as Gumayusi taking a lot of damage. It's piercing arrow, and Gumayusi's still going to be all right.
Man, aiming, playing with fire on this Varus, but will push him out ultimately, does not get punished there. And this should be this wave pushing through, denying a lot of minions here to Guma. Not going to stay for the plate here because it's a little bit too greedy, a little bit too low on the health. And we'll try to make something happen, it looks like, as they rotate up to mid.
Faker is in a lot of trouble, but Keen is also in a ridiculous amount of trouble. Zeus going to have to flash to get out of that last turret shot, but still, look at that minion wave.
I mean, Keen's out of this game.
Oh, he's done.
He's done. It's over.
40 CS to 14.
He just teleported. He lost a plate. He has no way to get back to this lane. And Faker will survive that pressure, actually stays here, will greed for another wave, trademark Faker here, but won't get punished. BDD has flash and ult, but there's just too much space between Faker and him, so can't actually punish. And that's 1,300 gold, the advantage to your top side. Doesn't even go for the Sork Shoes, just getting some additional AP so he can get the maximum value out of these early levels. And look at this, Equalizer lines up nice, tossing in that Ignite. Huni would be proud.
Oh, yeah.
An old SKT Rumble player himself. And This is exactly the kind of lead you're looking for here for T1, and they haven't even looked for a Paranoia or a Pop Blossom yet.
No, and the team fights are going to be just ridiculously strong for this team if Zeus retains this level of advantage. Because not only do they have a strong Rumble, but the Renekton's that we've seen be able to mitigate a lot of this. This one is going to be a handbag. This is not a real Renekton in this game.
No, I mean, you might as well be anything else because he is just not going to be relevant unless he gets a ton of help. And that's just going to make the rest of the map so much more lopsided. BDD looking for a potential roam up here, but Zeus is just holding the wave right on his turret. Keen doesn't have 6. He is a potato in this game, unfortunately. Like, he can't do anything. He literally can't farm. Yep. He cannot clear anything. He's sitting in experience range to get level 6. And that's the best he could hope for. At least he wasn't zoned out of that.
Yeah, he did at least manage to get the level 6, so there's that. So Dominus is now available. No flash for Zeus, and a flash is up for Keen. But
you ever wonder what it's like to be a top laner in solo queue?
Yeah.
It is on display here, and it just, there's nothing you can do. Now the wave will finally push through. But look at this, owner level 6. It is not going to be the free defense of wave that Keen is looking for. Look at the poke coming through. And Equalizer's back up. Keen is not safe.
Yeah, they pinged it. They know that this is probably happening as Keen is already Dominus. And there's the Paranoia. He dives forward. He's trying to get the stuns in, but it just does not work.
Another wave denied. Multiple waves denied. Another cannon going down here. Zeus just putting flames on it, saying, look at all the gold burning up. And every single Equalizer getting value here for Zeus, his first 2. Denying waves from Keen, who finally got 6. We have not seen a top gap like this in a long time. I mean, this is insane. He is 50 CS up in 8 minutes. Keen is like Taeyun when he got pushed out of that one game earlier this season by Lehens. This is like twice as bad as that.
No, this is
oh my god.
This is not okay. And I don't know whether there's any way that KT can actually deal with it, as Faker is going to turn into a minion, make his way back towards this mid lane. And still level 6 here. And as you can see, oh my goodness. I mean, Carrier has 20 CS and Kane has 25. Like, that's the story. That's what we're telling here is Lehens, he wants to come up and try and at least get Keen a wave or 2. He has, you know, that level 6 that we were talking about before, but it's level 8 on Zeus.
This is just a heavy commitment now to try to get some of that bounty gold and try to get some plates here, but it's really risky for KT, but I mean, I guess you got to try something.
Yeah, they do manage to find the Glacial Prison. Zenith Blade connects this time, and Zeus could be going down. He has the Ignite. It's ticking, but he's not going to fall.
I think you got to double down on this, or it's going to be a disaster. Carrier has ult. He's wrapping around.
And now it's their turn to try and deny this wave. There's the flash forward from Keen. They don't find the stun though. Zeus is still here, still alive.
He's dead.
And BDD's going to move over. Carrier is just going to solo out the Leona. As Lehens not having a great time, Cuz getting low as Faker moves on in. Nico not quite going to be able to find it here as he turns into a minion. Cuz moves in. There's the Pop Blossom, finds 2! And Zeus is going to find the Harpoon. He still has basically 0 health. Faker's going to flash away, and there's at least a kill to go over to BDD.
I mean, Keen's chasing Faker down. He's like, why won't he die? Oh, right, I've only got a longsword in my inventory. I've got nothing. I have no stats. And I said we were going to know who's going to win this game when it crests 20. It's cresting 10, and we have our answer. This game is over at this point. Atlas is topside here. This is just another denial of minions here for Keen. He flashes forward, or dashes forward rather, tries to set up the stun here. Zeus just walks it out, but he will lose all of those minions, can't clear them all. And then here, he does very little damage. They layer the CC beautifully, but Zeus just gets the shield here, turns around. Then they're like deciding, do we actually fight this one out? He plays respectfully here. And then Lehens, of course, is going to lose this 1v1 down a level. Doesn't have ult. Carrier can ignite him to death. And then after this, Keen and Cuz chase way too far. Good spell shield from Owner denies Keen's stun. And he's just a handbag at this point. Look at how little damage he does to Faker here and the opportunities he has to Q him. Faker pop blossoms and just walks away casually. The flash does come out. And yes, Carrier will die for this, but so much value. And everything was committed topside for this, and they still come up relatively empty.
Yeah, no, this is a ridiculous level of dominance here in this early game. And I think T1 may have taken game 1 pretty personally. as it was a bit slower, but it was definitely extraordinarily one-sided in the favor of KT.
And I just don't think KT have been tested like this season. Like, there's never been a game where they've been this far behind, and this is a best-of-5 series where a loss like this could definitely get in your head. If you felt like this was going to be an easy series, you're really confident, then you get just obliterated like this, and I think they're making some aggressive plays, and obviously if it fails, yeah, T1's going to get further ahead, but you have to make attempts like that on the top side or you're just going to lose the game by default, but they're just a hair away from getting something out of that play, but T1 just get further and further ahead. I think T1, with this kind of a lead, there's no question that KT is losing this second game, but how can they recover mentally? Unless some miracle team fights happen. I mean, there's only bounty on Rumble right now, so even if you kill everyone else, it's not going to be additional gold just yet.
They're going to see whether they can stop this Rift Herald charge. The Drake has spawned. It's only an Ocean, but still, trying to deny the stacking is going to be a great thing, because going to be able to poke its eye, but now T1 able to use that priority to move towards this Drake pit, as there's a nice hook onto Lehens. He does have Eclipse, and he's going to go aggressively, finds himself a stun onto Gumayushi. He's now going to chase down the Leona, turns his attention now as the Emperor's Divide is going to get spell shielded beautifully. BDD makes his way out, but it's not going to be enough, and Keen kind of wishes he had more than $50 in his bank account, because he's just not doing enough.
Yeah, he just really isn't. Faker, by the way, not even pop blossoming in that initial part of the fight. Guma, another cash in. This one actually relevant. The last one was somewhat relevant, but he's got so much money now, 6,000, so 2,000 ahead of aiming. And it was just one kill earlier for the Draven. You're like, okay, well, that's not completely on fire, right? It's not a 50 CS lead like top lane, right? Well, with this cash in now, it certainly is definitely looking pretty doomed. Is just going to go ahead and go back and buy that Triforce. And, BDD, he picks up a kill in this game early, but he's still not ahead of the curve and won't be able to make the same impact if there's no follow-up damage, unfortunately for him. And we'll see what he ultimately ends up building this game around. As down here in this fight, it's optimistic at best to contest this. Look at aiming where he isn't anywhere near this fight when Lehens decides to commit into the stun. Keria gets permafrosted here. They do commit to try to kill him. BDD completely whipping the Emperor's Divide, will still get out. But Keen, he does no damage. Like, it's actually kind of appalling to watch. Like, you see that, you're like, is that a bug? Or no, he just actually can't hurt people.
No, he just can't. He's got an Iron Spike whip that in a lot of other games would have just been a Gore Drinker already completed. He's trying his best to catch whatever waves he's going to be given. Plate's going to fall down in 5 seconds time. Aiming has his Dust Blade done. There is at least a crown built here for BDD as he's going to park himself. And like, KT have found some great team fights in the past, but I just don't know whether you can even team fight your way out of this one. It's feeling just a little bit too doomed.
It's hard to out-macro your way out of this one. Like, stuff like this, BDD's got his crown now. He's just waiting for Faker, hoping maybe he can win the 1v1 if he rotates up to Herald. But guess what? T1 know he's missing, so I think Faker will play respectfully. He doesn't even have to force. He has TP, could come over here with that instead of walking through. So BDD is just really hopeful that Faker, the greatest player of all time, will just be like, I don't know where he is. Maybe I'll walk through.
Yeah.
Sounds a bit hopeful to me, but T1 still not actually hard committing to a fight or anything like that, just kind of casually taking this objective.
All right, they're going to look for Gumayushi. There's the paranoia as they look to kill him. They will be able to take him down, and now it could be another one as Ona's going to explode. It's a double for aiming.
And you know what? Maybe he was just looking for Guma to come back to mid and catch that wave. He wasn't looking for Faker, and he found the kill he was looking for. And that is going to be a little bit of money here to KT. Rolster won't be able to contest the Herald, won't be able to stop this top turret from going down, which will be first brick without the Herald. But at least BDD's weight there comes up with something.
Yeah, and it's going to be assists onto Keen. Like, we need to keep a check on to see whether Keen is actually a champion yet. Right now, no, not quite. Could potentially try and freeze a wave or two, but here it is.
Look at the extended range here that he engages from through the Raptor pit. I did not see that one coming, and he goes right onto Guma as the wave crashes. That was about as hard forced as you could make it, but it is successful this time. And BDD, flashing for the play, is going to pick up some additional money here for aiming.
There's no way that KT
gap.
wins this game, right?
I just don't see it, man. I still don't see it. I didn't see BDD getting anything out of that. I apologize to everyone.
Yeah.
But
I've lost hair over similar situations. I'm just letting you know. What do you want to bet for it?
I'll shave for the finals.
Oh!
Face for the finals if KT win this game.
And that is actually a big deal. Like, Wolf's bearded face is on pizza packets. You know, like, this is
I'll
big.
do it. I'm committing. If KT win this one, shave on my face.
Oh my gosh. Okay, you heard it here first.
But I'm not worried at this moment in time.
Hey, trust me, I wasn't worried either. Lehen's going to be able to clear out some vision, but Ona, full control of the map right now. The main thing that you need to look at is this Rumble, who is 3-0-3, has his Demonic Embrace, looking towards that Night Harvester, and he is so massive.
Yeah, I mean, he has so much money. He picked up the Dark Seal as well early on. Hasn't been able to stack too much for it. I mean, 4 is pretty nice, but, you know, it's not like he's absolutely dumpstering every single fight, so hasn't been able to snowball that to 10. I mean, it's 17 minutes into the game, but he's huge. Faker is going to be able to set up engagements. The Collector is done. So if Faker hits anybody, and then Zeus layers the ultimate, and then Guma layers his ultimate, it doesn't even matter how many auto attacks Guma does. The fight just kind of ends like that.
Yeah.
There isn't really an angle for, like, what if Guma gets caught by Emperor's Divide? You know, it's very unlikely. He got caught in mid trying to catch a wave. In 5v5, it's going to be a little bit tougher. Aiming, trying to hit some of that poke. He is still fairly relevant in this game with the kills he's picked up. This turret is going to disappear.
Yeah.
And fighting for this Drake, this soul point, is just not realistic for KT. They have no control whatsoever. Faker is holding the choke point with his Pop Blossom.
And opening up the map just becomes so hard. As okay, Solar Flare connects onto Gumayusi, but not too much more is going to happen. Carrier takes a piercing arrow, and that is about it. Collector done for Gumayusi as well. About half an item ahead of aiming right now as Zeus is moving on down. This soul point should definitely come on in.
He got Gore Drinker and was able to take away some of that farm on the top side. Small victories here, going to TP to actually get the bounty as KT sell the idea that they're going to contest this and they'll just pick up some bounty gold. It's a small victory here for KT, the greater victory being that soul point, but I like the decisiveness here from Keen to just make the call to grab some gold for the rest of his squad here, split across the team. Because winning this fight, I think, was an impossibility, even if he shows up. They just have no control of chokes. They're way behind in items, and he's just going to pick up bounty gold. He's fine.
Yeah, he's going to be able to get it. And there we go. Not even having to deal with the backdoor bonus or anything like that. And so Keen gets the local gold here as well. Actually kind of big. He's probably dead as the ward comes down. There's Paranoia. And he presses Dominus and stuff like that. But
he's not worth money. It's okay, right?
Yeah, they're going to give the kill to Zeus as well. Oh my goodness. That is absurd. It's okay. Faker might be traded for here. As Pop Blossom comes in, doesn't find anything, and BDD is going to be able to lock that one down. So a 1-for-1 handbag for Nico.
Yeah, handbag for Nico. He did get the full 300 actually from that, and we'll pick up 2 additional Dark Seal stacks. So still worth it to kill that Crocodile, but he got gold for the rest of his team. And BDD, that wave is deleted mostly. He's going to be close here. I don't know if he can get this. I guess maybe just a few more of these.
Maybe he just stays in and uses his Shifting Sands in order to get that shield. So he's going to be able to take that one down as well. Double bounty gold.
Okay.
All right. We are within 4,000 gold now. It was close to an 8,000 gold lead much earlier in the game. So
my bigger concern, I mean, the gold lead was always going to be massive, right? And some of that's diminished, but the next concern becomes for KT, how do you set up on objective fight?
Yeah, how do you actually fight for a dragon?
Because you can pick up some gold here, and then there's still a team fighting composition here, but how do you fight for a Baron? How do you fight for a dragon? As this is just Keen getting caught here, obviously for committing for his turret and the bounty there. I think worth it for KT ultimately, especially with Faker dying in the cross map. So it does end up being fine. Faker does just get caught here by the ultimate despite trying to use his dash cannon to get out. And they pick up a lot of bounty gold here, but setting up for objectives, getting vision control, and like as you can see here with Nocturne, Nico, it's hard to actually just exist on the map for KT. So that's another problem they're going to have to solve here. The gold lead has dipped, but doesn't solve the fundamental problem of how League of Legends works when you are behind against Nocturne, Nico, Draven, and Rumble.
Yeah, not to mention the outer turret is still up on the bottom side of the map for T1 to come on over and collect. They're looking for a Baron first. Immediate vision does come down, so KT, they can get over here. You can see T1 set up on flanks in multiple areas. As Cuz actually in the lead. The Equalizer is not exactly fantastic, but the depth charge is. There's a Pop Blossom as well. The Emperor's Divide finds 4, but it's the Azir just popped like a balloon. Decent damage there as Kerry is going to go down. They get the Rumble. Keen is going to die. The cash-in comes through for Gumayusi, but I don't think they're going back to the Baron right now because it was a 2-for-2.
I mean, Aiming, doing a ton of damage in these fights. He's still very relevant in this game. He's the one champion here with Azir, I guess you could say, that is going to be able to do a lot of damage in these fights if T1 overextend or they're not able to instantly delete those targets. Now, Guma picked up a ton of money here as well, as you mentioned, but it's a very sloppy fight. As Guma sitting on this controller, takes some of that poke. They find the engage here onto the Sejuani. Nautilus ult is fantastic. The crown mitigates a little bit of this. BDD, though, critically, as he dies, still gets off a decent amount of damage with his Emperor's Divide. The team is now split on the top part here on the right side of this wall over the river. And Keen, despite having no items, will make the play happen. And with Aiming being at full health, just firing, free firing into those health bars, they can't push for anything further. The Baron is denied.
For now.
For now.
By the way, if KT do manage to pull off the miracle and they win the series, please vote for Keen. Because I have never seen a top laner's mental survive a game, like an early game experience like that, ever.
We will have to see how it goes before I'm going to say I will commit to that one. I'll say I'll commit to shaving my face before I commit to
that's fair. That's fair enough. That's fair enough.
But
he'd get POG in my heart, you know. It's pretty impressive that Keen hasn't just completely.
He has not just fallen over. And
no, he hasn't. And it's still a 30 CS gap, right? It's still a massive lead for Zeus in this game, but Keen has been able to try and find whatever he can and just try and be that front line for the rest of his teammates.
Tilt-proof, you know, I'll give him that one.
Yeah, no, definitely.
That. And
the honor goes straight to Keen.
Yeah.
Straight to Keen. It's Cloud Soul, though, that's going to be available in 20 seconds' time. And T1, they can move over and collect that. That makes map control much better as Faker comes in. They get the stopwatch out of Aiming. And BDD goes golden as well. Can they actually mitigate this? As the Paranoia dives into the backline. Ona has to flash away, though. It's a bit split, but the equalizer is decent. Keen dashing forward, trying to find Gumayusi. The permafrost comes in. Can they kill him? No, they can't. As Gumayushi's free hitting, it's a triple kill. And BDD is burning. Aiming, trying to get them low, but T1, even with their low health bars, they're heading towards the Baron.
All right, how brave is Aiming? Is he going to come over here and try to fire at these players taking Baron? Looks like instead they're going to take Soul away from T1 here, the first of the Drakes here for KT. But their health's so low, it's actually quite tricky to pull this one off. They can't even do it. Uh-oh, KT, you start to see some decisions like this, and you start to worry. I think the better call might have been, if you're Aiming, maybe to see if you can get lucky and fire some arrows over that wall and see if you can kill those low health members. As T1, this could not be more disjointed. I mean, look at Faker, Guma. They follow up on this. There's a ton of peel here in this composition. The stopwatch is great for BDD. If they actually had money, if they weren't super massively behind, and Renekton was an actual champion here, this could have been disastrous for T1. But the wallets, as you often say, are extremely heavy here. And yes, T1 do end up giving Faker over, but it's a 1 for 3. And they're still going to be able to turn that into a Baron take. And ultimately, KT decide to try to start Drake fail because of the low health bars, and T1 will get Soul as well. And it's just really grasping at straws here for KT. Even T1's weakest and messiest engage isn't ultimately going to be enough to get them back into this one.
Yep, not enough. And T1 now with Cloud Soul, my personal favorite, as well as the Baron. They're going to be able to take down this outer turret very comfortably. Carrier just occupying the flank, making sure that KT don't try and rotate over. They're not going to be able to do so. Keen is towards that top side, trying to make sure that that lane is as long as possible so that T1 can't take everything. And he is actually going to be left alone. So this tower should actually be traded. Some bounty gold coming in, of course. The map is going to open up to the point where Ona can get in and look for the inner turret in mid lane.
This is the top lane experience. I'm telling you, Keen is just like, all right, well, I guess I'll get bounty gold for my team if they're grouping. That's all you can do in these situations sometimes. He is going to pick it up.
Yeah, Equalizer comes down just to try and guarantee this turret. There's the flash, 3-man Pop Blossom. Emperor's Divide comes in, but it does absolutely nothing. It's a double for Guma as well. And they're going to continue pushing here towards this inhibitor turret. I don't think T1 are going to stop. as Carrier tanks it up initially. They are now going to break open the base. T1, they are fed up. They do not want to give KT any opportunities back into this one, and they will not. They could even keep pushing here and look for a Nexus turret as Keen. He's pressed the dominance button. Can they actually do anything though as he slice and dice, and now he's dead. Cuz trying to find something if he can, but the Nexus turrets are falling. A hook is going to connect there as Cuz is just going to get whittled down. Gumayusi just too massive on this Draven. They will be able to take the Nexus and even out the series.
An absolute stomp here in this second game. 2 back-to-back one-sided ones. Even though it wasn't the fastest game time as the crowd is erupting in T1 chance, even though it wasn't the same speed of killing the Nexus, I would argue the second game much more one-sided here for T1.
Yeah.
And it's just all about that early game. This composition excels at it. The Rumble pick with the Ignite absolutely dominated the Renekton. They punished it hard. They were confident. They trusted in Zeus. As we said, going into this matchup today in the top lane, that could be the one strong point for T1. And in this game, it absolutely was. And with Pop Blossoms holding choke points, the amount of map control they gained, as well as that early kill for Guma, basically at level 1, I mean, this one was just a wash, and I think KT will be tested in a different way than they have been tested this entire season in an extended best-of-5, where the crowd is against them, and they have now been absolutely destroyed in a second game where they were practically humiliated.
Yeah, no, that was just ridiculous. And honestly, it felt like this game was pretty much over from 5 minutes. The early kill from Gumayusi really got that bottom lane rolling, and then Zeus just destroying.
My beard is safe.
Your beard is absolutely safe. Thankfully, you know, those who have bought the Wolf-branded pizza are not going to be confused when they see you at the LCK final. It is all well and truly intact. This series is also well and truly intact as we have 2 more games at least in it. We're going to go to a short break. The space is going to break down game number 2, and we'll be back for game 3.
나 초시계는 있어.
볼게 고 따라갔고
공중.
봐봐 볼게
구도 좋아.
레오나
라인
그래서 저만 있고
가자 일마하다.
나 저만 있어서 레넥 원콤이야 이거 레넥 노플이야
얘네 박으면은 잡자 그냥.
오케이 레넥 초식에 살만할 듯안 샀다 내가 떼주고 맞아줄게 이거 솔라리도 있어 침착하게 이거 미드라인 그거 떼지 말고 하나씩 차근차근
레넥 잡을 생각하자 이거.
합치면 그래도 볼게 내가 이거 탱해줄게 일단 탱해줄게 레넥 볼게 나 어렵고 레넥 레넥 잡았어 오케이 타 라인 온다
타.
떼줘 잡아야 돼
타. 레오나밖에 없다. 잘했어요.
우리의 전성기 지금입니다. KT 넘버원 31일 만에 선발 출전 메이커가 돌아왔습니다. 아래서 관문 돌파.
Welcome back to the space. As we have a series, we did not have a competitive game though, because what a stomp on the side of T1 and the right draft to do so. I would say we'll talk about this in a little bit, but guys, one word to describe this game. Huni, go first.
Happy Rumble Day.
All right, that's it.
Happy Rumble.
Happy
One
Rumble.
phrase, yeah.
Yay.
So that's Huni.
Yeah, I mean, I was craving for like Ignite Rumble all the time. Especially against Renekton, you can't play if you're not snowballing, if you're not playing these extreme. Otherwise, you're just gonna get outscaled, losing side lane, not being useful. This is my boy.
Yeah, and we've been calling for this for a long time, especially you, Huni, right? Like, the fact that they do go for the Rumble counter pick was pretty key. It gets them a win in the lane in the top side, and I feel like a lot of our pros have been kind of losing the lane and not really having impactful performances on the Rumble, so they kind of left it to the side for a while, but Zeus comes right back, picks up the Ignite, says he's going to dominate, and does a great job.
Yeah, it is hard to do anything in this matchup, honestly, when you're on the side of the Renekton. But that's what we were saying also. Put Zeus on the driver's seat, give him some agency, and I think it was the perfect champion to do this here. A couple misplays, though, on the side of KT in the early game, if we can reflect on this phase, as yesterday when we saw T1 play, we saw that even though they grab leads in the early game, they don't quite manage to snowball out of it. But here it was just impossible to do anything after that.
Yeah, I mean, the misplay, it was like a little abuse, like the KT definitely overstep and just get hooked. And it's like, this is like the most, kind of boring level 1, how they can get easily this soul kill. And why? Why Koz is contesting top river when he has no top laner?
No idea. I really feel like those two first kills were really disrespectful from KT, and T1, a good enough team to just scoop up the free kills, and then Zeus is like, all right, I'm fed. Woo! I have Ignite, I've got level 6 first, let me just kill you again under the turret. Denies a huge wave, and then they just do it again. Why not?
Done. It's not done. I mean, this is like the Rumble reason why you pick. It's not about you're gonna get strong. It's about you making enemy top laner useless.
Quick check, exactly. Thank you so much, production. Quick check on the top gap, as we can call it, because yeah, keep on getting dove like this. There's no way you can come back, and that's what the caster said during the game. It made just the Renekton completely useless, and we saw the non-impact of this champion in team fights later on.
Yeah, and this is at 8 minutes into the game.
That's crazy.
Okay, it is a 46 CS difference, a over 2,000 gold difference, and of course 2 kills and an assist. So you were talking about making the enemy useless. He definitely did that, and he also got fed. It's kind of like everything went right for him in the top lane.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I said this is a happy Rumble game day, and it's like, I think that only the Zeus can do it, and I'm pretty sure it will affect the rest of this series. Like, it goes game 3. I mean, they're gonna think about how about Rumble, and at least in the second phase, like, they probably have to throw the ban.
Yeah.
Even Zeus, I think if I was him, I would just pick Rumble 1, 2, 3, like, before they get banned.
He did really well during the game, but I also want to praise the rest of the T1 lineup here, really not missing the mark, really being in sync, and this is what we wanted to see from them. But also, I feel like with a draft like this, it leaves a little space to misplays, and I don't see how KT could have come back with the tools they had.
Yeah, I mean, they had a lot of tools if the game went long, but we never really got there, right? Yeah. It was a great point about the coordination. T1 actually able to make it happen in the laning stage. And then you've got so many R buttons. Just go ahead and press them. Faker always looking for the opportunistic plays from this far ahead, and you might as well. And even though KT were taking some little fights here and there, they couldn't quite overcome the giant wallet gap.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing as a game 1. Like, the KT actually like they turn it around like in game 2. Like if from early game they never lost their lead, and it's like they're be able to. They know they're a good player. They know how to just make a snowball. They're not making mistake. Even though there was a little mistake, but it wasn't really enough to impact the game. And T1 actually overall just played really well around the object as well.
Yeah, they do, and that's what we wanted to say from them. And what I'm wondering is it going to be enough for them to give them confidence to keep the ball rolling and maybe clutch this series, as they were the underdogs coming here today based on what we saw from them, Valdez?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that it's still the same 5-man roster that has gone to multiple finals, and I think that they went through a really rough slump, and they had some really rough times, especially without Faker. Faker is back. They do look a little bit better here in playoffs. I still do think that KT did kind of disrespect them early on and gave them a lot of angles to get a lead in this one, but as we've been saying, the fact that T1 at least was able to put, 2 and 2 together and get across the finish line and actually win a game against KT was something that a lot of us didn't even expect.
Player of the game here. We talked about the man in game 1. He shined here in game 2. And of course, it is Darius picking it. Amazing Rumble player. Kuni, I will let you.
I mean, he's my POG already. Like, it doesn't matter. My POG was already raw. It was a lock, basically, like, even before he was getting fed, because he had an Ignite Rumble. And I knew that he will do well. And he actually proved himself. And that's good boy.
That's the bottom line, Uni. Yeah, I mean, he did so much. Like, some of the equalizers were not great, but some of them were really fantastic. Like this one up against the wall. And obviously, it doesn't really matter about the equalizers if you just boom your lane that hard, as not even Faker going to get a stray media vote this time around.
He did have some good engages on Nico later on, but the game was pretty much over by that point. KT going back on blue side here, this time see in draft. Or in game, as we said, that it was mostly disrespectful plays on the side of KT.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little, to go back to like actual reality, it's like KT definitely a stronger team at the moment, and it's like they probably T1 to win, order to win a game. It's as you said, Zeus must drive the giant bus. He gotta be in the drive seat and just pilot the game, basically.
Yeah, I mean, playing around top. If you get a matchup like that again, if KT are like, no, we can win this Renekton versus Rumble matchup. No, you can't win this Renekton versus Rumble matchup. And hope you get another Anglers T1 and just run away with it, maybe.
Yeah, fantastic performance here on the side of T1, who make the series interesting. Let's see if they can take us too much points. Sorry, casters, back to you for game 3.
Thank you so much, Spaces, for the breakdown of game number 2. Yeah, a domination from mainly the gentleman on the top side of the map, something that we were talking about earlier on. It's how they took down D+ earlier on, and it looks to be an avenue for success here against KT.
I think that this win for T1 is definitely going to make you feel great. It's going to keep your kind of mentality going into a tough series like this in a good place. But I don't think it magically solves all of the issues in mid games we've seen from T1 all season long. So maybe try to get another draft you can snowball like this. There's a lot of picks in this meta you can use even without the Nocturne to snowball, even without the Draven. So you could actually, if some of those champs are banned away, I think draft similarly. And for KT,
And they could theoretically still put Jace in the top lane. Like, Zeus was a phenomenal Jace player, so you can still play around that pick if you would like to. Deft also had the historic game of Jace in the bottom lane, which let's just not do that again.
You always mention it. You know?
I have
You're the
to,
one who
I
brings
have
it
to,
up.
because Jace has kind of been played in every single lane, except, I guess, support. And the jungle. As Tristana going to be banned away also, and I actually really like the respect of the Tristana because no one's really been flexing it recently. I actually kind of thought it would be a good pick for KT to take themselves. Can be a little bit awkward into the Maokai because the Maokai, you can't buster shot him away as he's twisted advancing towards you.
Lucian.
That's going to be an interesting consideration. They will lock that one in. The Lucian Alistair now kind of works.
Yeah, I don't think this is a bad pick by any means. Definitely not the lane dominance and poke power with Maokai sub the Varus would have provided, but it is going to be a little bit more robust in terms of pick potential in the mid game against the squishy Nico. Can also kind of keep her at bay, as the Jax is still left open here, and it will be locked in here for Keen. And I mean, the Rumble is still up. If they wanted to opt into it with the Maokai here, doesn't feel terrible. It's going to be Ezreal Yuumi.
Okay, the Ezreal Galio or Ezreal Nico. We're not entirely sure. Oh, Jax Fiora. That is one heck of a matchup if Zeus is going to opt into it. Like you said, could go back to the Rumble, but with the Azir who does a lot of damage.
I love the GP, actually. Oh, the Jace top you mentioned. I mean, you need some sort of extra damage here, I think, in this composition. The Fiora isn't going to be it. The Renekton is going to be the middle ground here. And they're going to actually opt to the Cassante. This pick I like the least, I think, of the ones that were hovered, just simply because you can circumvent it in almost every way. The Jax can just simply ignore it. The Nico isn't going to be bothered by it. The Nocturne flies over it. And you're not really looking for front to back with this Lucian. I think Faker is going to have to be doing the heavy lifting with Nashor's Tooth in these team fights if this is how you want to play it out as T1.
It's a really interesting draft on both sides, though. The Lucian being experimented with. Yeah, the Cassante doesn't really make us too excited, but should be able to mitigate a fair bit of Jax's early laning. But eyes are going to be glued to see whether Lehens on this Galio is going to be able to make it work, because it's one of the oldest tricks in the book, right? The Galio Nocturne combination. We used to see it a few years ago all of the time.
And it's just so Lehens to actually have the confidence to pull this pick out in a best of 5 like this. And it's not the kind of pick you wanted to hide for finals necessarily, but it is one he is going to show here in this third game. And I love that Lehens just is never afraid to say, I'm going to throw a wrench into the gears here. I'm going to do something different. I'm going to go back to an old tech. He's been around for so long. And this composition for KT absolutely can work. The Lucian, I felt like if they had a little bit more damage on the top side, I would have liked a little bit more, or a little bit more hard engaged. The Cassante is the middle ground here for T1 that I'm not a huge fan of.
Yeah, not necessarily, but I don't think the story is necessarily going to be about that top lane as well. If they can keep Keen at bay, then they can fight the rest of the team. And honestly, that's where all the shenanigans are going to be prepared. Very interested to see what KT's take on the previous T1 draft is going to be, but without that dominant top side of the map, unless Keen does something crazy. Let's jump onto the Rift for Game 3. All right, here we are, ladies and gentlemen, onto the Rift for the third game of this series. We are all tied up 1-1 in our telecom war round 2 playoffs match, much like we were in the spring season.
Yeah.
It should go the distance if we were going to allow history to repeat itself. But we'll see who's going to be able to take this game. Some experimentation being done here by KT, namely from this gentleman here. Lehens on the Galio support. I think the last person to play Galio support here in the LCK was Carrier.
Yeah, that does seem right. And I don't know if we'll get the stats because regular season versus playoffs, but definitely a good shout out because Carrier did pull it off a few times. It was the one of the picks that Faker liked to prioritize early, and then they would swap it as Lehens. Trying to get his flash early here, but he's got a blast cone. He's not too worried. He's actually going to offer some damage.
Faker gonna have to blast cone away. This is a bit awkward. For the positioning of everyone right now, as there's a flash over from Carrier. They get Cuz into the pit. He's gonna flash away as well. There's a lot of things being used here. The puppy's getting upset. And I think in the end, everyone's just gonna back away. BDD getting control of the mid lane. And that is going to be the result. Kane just going to walk towards Zeus and hits him. Says, that's for being mean to me in the last game.
So a little bit of health advantage here in the jungle matchup going to KT. Cuz losing Flash on early game. Nocturne doesn't feel too bad. Keria having a lack of Flash actually feels more impactful, arguably, even though he has Hex Flash.
Oh, no, it feels great for Keria. Yeah. You're absolutely right. Get that thing on cooldown as he does get taunted up just a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it is going to feel really bad if you end up getting collapsed on or taking bad trades, because...
Level 2, pretty strong here. Is Keria not quite there himself, and aiming just demonstrating how much he loves his Ezreal.
He really does. And the fact that the Alistar doesn't have Flash, next time this happens, he might just be dead. As this is a 6-game losing streak that Jax is on currently here on this patch, 4-6. So started off with a win streak, but has otherwise felt a little bit absent in some of these games. I think a lot of teams reliant on the Jax pick. And Kuma, he's got a pretty huge win rate on this Lucian. This should come as no surprise to anyone who watched him play in the Lucian, Nami, Zeri, Lulu meta, and other metas as well.
Yep, very true. I do think that that was to do with Keria being ridiculous on the Nami as well. But he's also fantastic. Okay, Lehens is flashing as well. Owner is going to have to flash. And so Cuz complained to Lehens and said, my man, there's a flash advantage in the jungle. I don't like it. And Lehens is like, let me see what I can do. And he manages to alleviate it.
And this is just really great play from KT in the early game. The early game has been fantastic. And this is even with the Nocturne pick. The bot lane prio allows for plays like this to come through. The Galio, a little bit more agency than a lot of other supports that Ezreal plays with normally. Like the Yuumi, for example, is definitely not making plays like this. And he comes over here and takes a flash away. And now they've taken away some of the camps here, so Owner really feeling the hurt here early on. Yep. BDD doing some damage, but lots of control here early for KT, and they've been able to amass a significant gold lead across the jungle and mid lane here.
Ooh, double scuttle as well as a triple bloom on the burst, but still, Faker going to be able to press that Q button after a W, and everything's going to be okay, because there's the double scuttle that we were talking about. Zeus is moving down. He wanted to see whether he could possibly deter Cuz from taking that one away.
Cuz got the good RNG on that scuttle.
Oh, and no mid lane is really going to be able to come over and help out in this particular moment. Owner at 50%, level 3 to level 4.
And you mentioned this in the draft. Like, the Nocturne can just out-farm and out-push these camps, has great clear. And when you have Prio and lanes as well, Cuz could just do stuff like this. His flash is still down, but he's a level up, and there's just no way Owner can contest. Double buff here for this Nocturne. He's just going to sit on it, pull the big chicken away from smite range here, and there's just nothing Owner could do. He's just watching his whole jungle get stolen away. Look at all the camps Cuz has available on his top side.
That's double the camps that has been taken here by this Nocturne, and he can go back to safety and clear out even more. This is devastation, and this is actually, like, a lot of teams would collapse after a game like the last one, right? Like, it is very difficult to mentally restart yourself and realize, hey, it's a fresh series. KT absolutely have done that, as Faker taking a lot of damage once again here as Keria looking to come on over and grab BDD, who doesn't exactly have a massive health bar. Ezreal does, so it looks a bit confusing. And as you can see here, BDD is going to be somewhat unhealthy.
Yeah, it doesn't have a ton of mana either, but enough as he hits level 6. And I mean, Owner is just trying to do anything he can.
If he can't get these chickens...
I don't know if he gets these, to be honest. He gets some of them.
And Cuz doesn't have smite, so there's at least that. Cuz still going to move in, though.
Sapling helping out.
And, oh, one! Oh, thank goodness. Oh, man. Okay. Whew. If that Dustbringer had have actually taken away that 1 health on the chicken, devastation. Thankfully, it is going to be secured there, but nowhere near out of the woods.
Yeah, unfortunately for Owner, still significantly behind, but is going to be able to get something back here. We'll take his Wolves. But Cuz is going to be able to get level 6 much faster to make that impact on this map. With not a lot of prio, again, the Maokai with no camps is just not going to do anything here early, even though of these two junglers in terms of gank power, the Maokai pre-6 generally is way higher impact. But the control that Ezreal got early really mitigated some of Lucian's early power. The Nico poke here has been working out a treat here for BDD. And so this early game has really just gone off without a hitch for KT Rolster, still maintaining that 400 gold lead. Not going to start up this first Drake just yet. Cuz wants to have ult ASAP. You can see his experience bar. He's just hit level 5, so he's still a ways away from it.
Yeah, another Scuttle. Going to collect this one towards the top side, go to his Gromp, probably have that level 6. And yeah, the experience bar not quite there just yet, but he might even just move straight towards the Krugs. And yeah, the chickens are also coming on through here as there's the all-out from Zeus because he's in the area. And there he is, he flashes over, gets himself first blood on this Nocturne.
It's just really hard forcing here, and you could do this to great success if you have jungle control or if you're the blue side K'Sante, but trying to do it to the enemy red side Jax here, those early levels, he is going to be able to add a lot of damage, and then Cuz just flashes in for the play. That's level 6 with the Gromp, as you mentioned, so he can come down here to the Dragon and make a high impact play before Owner is going to be able to do anything about it. He also just backed, so not going to be able to hit 6 unless he clears the top side of the jungle, so that means that KT should be able to turn this into a Drake play. The bottom side smartly resetting here as Faker. There's just not going to be time for a contest. And Keen does have teleport. Will be able to pick up that successful play on the top side here. As this aggressive trading is what leads to Zeus. He's like, okay, Counter-Strike is down. Going to pull him over the wall. But Keen ults here, has a bunch of his passive stacked up, just gets over the wall, and Cuz is just like, well, I'm here, so it's not a 1v1. You can't win this one.
Yeah, and the fact that the leap strike comes through and then Cuz flashes over, it could have been pretty awkward if Cuz had have like flashed in and then Zeus still kills Keen, and then they go 1-for-1. Instead, he's patient, waits, and then immediately flashes afterwards to secure the kill. Really nicely done. Still means that his flash is just going to be permanently used. I love that, getting the most value out of the cooldown of that flash button. They will be able to take this Drake as well.
You solved early game Nocturne. Just flash constantly.
Yeah, you should flash out of the base. That's the real strat. That tech is too dark to be used here in the LCK so far.
So despite the arrival of the Typhoon today, we got Cloud and Ocean earlier. No Soul of either of those this time in Game 3. See what the Soul does end up being, but KT feeling pretty happy, I think, about the Drake setups they have. Could still be Chemtech, but ultimately feeling like your chances are pretty good.
I hope Orcs is actually watching. I'm sure he is. But please, a little bit of attention would be great to make sure that we don't get that Chemtech. We will know if you are not putting full attention into this.
Yeah. Now, Cuz over here going to try to start this one up, but they don't have full control right now as
one of the
rotation
was moving up.
Yeah, rotation up here from Lehens as well. And without his level 6, I think that T1 can actually just hold on to this and control these choke points with the Maokai. KT should be very careful about trying to force this without their Nico being able to set up. They have no prio here on bottom side, so there's a bit of a clock ticking here. I think T1 should feel comfortable holding on.
Faker just doing a fair bit of damage, but there is the Justice Punch. They try to lock this one down. Pop Blossom's only onto 2. Faker keeps himself alive. Carrier's getting relatively low, and now BDD is in an awkward position. Keen gets on over and grabs the kill, though. Another all-out flies down, and Cuz is going to be dead. KT claimed position of this Rift Herald pit. We'll see whether they'll be able to get any more here. Saplings have been going to be thrown in as Keen going to get headbutted out. One of the values of this Alistar is Keen dives back in once again. Lehens is dead, and they're just keeping them at arm's length. BDD can't lock anyone down.
Owner having a bit of a great time here with K'Sante. They're just winning this fight. Absolutely dominant performance here from Zeus again. The flash there to get away, and it's against Jax in this fight, and it looked like KT had won it because the initial fight didn't go very well for KT. Faker is locked down by Lehens' play there. But ultimately, even the Jax, with how well he fights in skirmishes like this, isn't going to be able to stand up to the power of K'Sante. Aiming going to be fine down here, but finds himself in a CS deficit, and T1 striking back in a big way. The Herald's still available. Neither team securing that. The Eye not picked up. So we will have another fight for that very. Lehens decides, okay, I see the angle here onto Faker. We're going to look for the flash taunt. The follow-up with Nocturne is there. You mentioned this combo, but Faker just slides his way out of here. And then the turn for T1 is quite nice. BDD not going to be able to offer a whole lot of damage here. Keen, on the other hand, he absolutely will, but he's on the wrong side of the fight. Once Cuz is deleted and this becomes a 3v3, Zeus is like, hey, my resistances are coming back, and I'm ready to fight this one out. He is absolutely outclassing here. Keria boops the counter-strike away, and then he and Owner collapse on to kill the Hens. Flashes. This top laner, man, when he's on, he's on.
Yeah, he's looking real good. And that was just after the whoopsie. As T1 will be able to secure this Rift Herald. The second time of asking, Zeus comes on over to grab himself a plate. Keen counter-strikes, but isn't going to be able to stop that one from happening. And I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that Lehens doesn't have that pivotal ultimate to pair with the Paranoia that is so useful in these moments. I mean, honestly, like the heroic entrance is fantastic on top of BDD as well. If that Pop Blossom is going to be discovered, yeah, it's, there is a lot of use, but it's not there if you're only level 5, which is a little bit of a worry. And you can see T1 back in the driver's seat have themselves a very minuscule gold advantage as we tick towards 12 minutes. This is by no means a game that is reminiscent of either games 1 or 2.
Both these teams have really good win conditions in the mid game, so it's not like they need to be further ahead than they are. T1, that is to say, even with the Lucian pick here, there's a lot of scaling aspects in this comp. Lucian being one of them if he's set up properly and they have the tools to do it. And I really feel like this Nocturne pick here for KT didn't really get utilized very well on that last fight. Yeah, you got Faker down low, but he didn't die. And yes, Jax ends up killing Faker, but then Faker has successfully zoned Keen out of the fight.
Doesn't quite work. So, what do KT do now? I assume they probably want to just continue stacking up these dragons. 38 seconds until the cloud is going to come up. Then we will get news on which kind of soul we're going to be fighting for and which rift we're going to be playing on as well. As BDD, looking good with the spacing here as this melee minion is going to march out into an empty mid lane.
Yeah, it's a little tricky if maybe Owner was coming over here or something like that that could have collapsed onto him if Faker just walks into that, but no tricks to be had. Cuz was in position, did have Paranoia, but not going to be able to find anything. As we're going to have a bit of a setup here now on this Cloud Drake. T1 in pretty good position. Owner going to clear that Gromp and then can come over and set up Nature's Grasp. It's very difficult for KT here to get control right now without a Pop Blossom to fight with. And a lot of KT's draft is reliant on pushing fights and starting fights off on their terms. And when T1 has even a small amount of control with this Maokai, as you can see, they're just going to give it up completely. We'll find out what that soul is going to be here in just a moment. Faker maybe overextended.
Yeah, Paranoia is available, and it's Cuz just walking at him. See whether the fear is actually going to come down. It doesn't, because the Shifting Sands is available. Still, T1 do get relatively split up. Still, they're able to collect themselves this dragon very comfortably. Cuz spell shields the Nature's Grasp, but that is after the damage has been done in another Infernal. Very similar to game number 1 as far as the dragons are concerned.
Not great for the composition here of KT. The lack of bushes, the lack of places to hide and engage from. Don't feel great about the Rift. Obviously, the Soul will be great for both teams. But less hiding places for a Nico to spring out of, or a Nocturne to ult through, or Jax even. I mean, basically this entire comp is engages and an Ezreal.
Yep.
So for T1, the fact that there's a lot of open space here does empower their composition quite nicely, allows Maokai to know exactly where he's going to be able to get the most value out of his ult as long as they have vision anywhere. I mean, even local wards, bushes for them to be obscured, the vision, or obscure their vision. And KT, it's not Dunzo or anything like that. They're absolutely still in this game. The Jax is going to be very relevant in sides later. The Ezreal is going to scale up and will outrange the Lucian. It's just going to be, as we often say about execution here of these next few fights, the Rift Herald going to drop to give Faker some money.
Yeah, and it does feel like in an extended team fight, T1 have an advantage. In an early team fight, if the burst is going to land correctly, KT have an advantage. You mentioned side lanes. They are going to be able to figure out some angles there on the KT side with this Jax. But I do think that Gumayusi can be a bit of a difference maker. I think that the culling, if used as sort of that poking tool themselves with map control, can be very, very powerful. But as we can see, I mean, there is nothing moving this game one way or the other at this point in time. A Drake apiece, and it's a Cloud and an Ocean. As, all right, they're going to see whether they can grab an advantage here as the Paranoia comes in. Cuz tanks the entire culling. True Shot Barrage goes wide, and Gumayushi's going to go golden. Okay, can they lock it down? Aiming. Does manage to get the kill as Cuz is looking to try and flash away. Lehens is pretty dangerous, but Zeus is moving in as well, and there's another kill. So congratulations, KT. You managed to kill Gumayushi, but you lost 3 in the process.
Oh, Guma played that so well, and T1 were ready for it, and KT huge overextension is going to allow T1 to take a pretty significant gold lead here. A lot of this money going over to Zeus, which isn't exactly what you want here in this composition. You'd love for the Lucian to be picking up that gold or the Azir to be picking up that gold, but this play backfires in a huge way. It's another aiming overextension on the Ezreal. We've seen these, they're almost trademarked at this point. A lot of these KT chokes over the years have been from aiming, messing it up, and this particular moment here feels like, okay, opportunity strikes. Look at this, dashes first, cleanses the fear after the flash, and then avoids the true shot barrage, has stopwatch as the perfectly timed ult comes through from Owner. Aiming flashes through, gets the kill, but ultimately dies here in the process, and with Zeus showing up, Cuz goes down too.
Well, now Faker is going to deliver Keen to his team. Let's see whether they can take him down. The Counter-Strike is a fair bit of value as Kerry is tanking up this turret. He tries to turn it with that last turret shot, but it's not going to work out. True Shot Barrage flying up, wants to try and find the cow, but it's not going to get there.
And they're losing on both sides of the map right now. KT Rolster, 3,000 gold. Now up is T1. They took out aiming. They won the fight bottom side, took Cuz down as well. Lots of flashes down here for KT. Keen also flashing on that top side. Failed play, or failed survive there. He tries to go for the kill onto Keria after that dive comes through, is unable to do so. And Keen, he's now not where he wants to be as a Jax in this game for side lane relevance. His turret is gone. The second Herald is going to look like it's going the way of T1 here. They have the faster group up. Keen isn't here.
Yeah, and Owner is now going to just come over and grab control of this Rift Herald. Cuz is over the wall as there's the Nature's Grasp. They get the reset. There's now T1 looking for an opportunity.
BDD just doesn't have great access to this fight. Zeus is zoning them out.
Hens doesn't even have his ultimate. There's the paranoia as KT want to try and stop T1 from being able to secure this eye, but Zeus can be able to move over and collect that if he would like to. Winter War does absolutely nothing from this support Galio, and that is T1 just going in, taking whatever they want, and then leaving with it in the process.
And I understand the frustration here for KT because this Herald means mid-turret goes down almost 100%. It's already down to low health here. They can just drop it mid and guarantee that they're going to have prio for this next Drake. It's a really easy setup. The timing of this was huge, but ultimately because you decide to force this fight here as KT, is we're going to watch Keen and the tragedy that does happen to him. 3 members topside diving for him. Faker sets it up. He looks for the play here onto Keria with the turret shot and the stun, but it's not going to be enough. Nice sleep strike attempt. But the play on the Drake, or rather the Herald, means that you've used your paranoia. That's gone. And how do you set up for this fight now? T1 still have control and they have a Herald. So I understand why you fight for it, but it just wasn't really a great angle there. And Keria just constantly keeping BDD away from T1.
Yeah, not to mention aiming just kind of doesn't do anything at this stage of the game. You need 2 items, and then you all of a sudden start to do things, but it's not really that noticeable until later on in the game where you can kind of be the main character for the team. And will True Shot Barrage Owner here as BDD one. First Infernal goes to T1. That's the beginnings of the stacking. 3 of them on the table for whoever gets the soul as well. It's going to be a large amount of extra stats coming from the Dragons this game.
And T1 have made some poor decisions, even in playoffs, right, in terms of when they want to fight and what fights they're going to try to take, even when they don't have their win conditions online, for example. But they have not made those mistakes really in this series. And the calls in late game team fights, as was proven yesterday against D+, is where one of their greatest strengths lie. You know, hands or no, Faker's going to show up and make the right call. The team is going to be decisive. They're all going to be on the same page. They're going to punish plays like we saw from aiming there in the bottom lane. And so KT's angles to come back, I feel like almost are reliant on T1 falling apart as a team, and that's just never really been an issue outside of like pre-Poby T1 where there were some communication issues. We were starting to say T1 were looking a little bit like some of the weaker versions of the rosters we've seen, not the roster we saw dominate spring. But right now, it feels like we're watching peak T1 again, and everyone's saying they might show up in playoffs, but no one was ready to believe it except the T1 fans. And they're showing up in a big way. This Herald now going to get dropped down. They were able to secure the Drake without it, and now they can group very carefully here to grab this turret. Not much KT can do in response, especially with Owner here on the flank. And it is respected by KT Rolster. No one's going to get caught by this Maokai.
Yeah, Emperor's Divide going to push Keen underneath this turret as well. I don't think that there was turret aggro, so I'm not sure about the stopwatch. But yeah, you know, sometimes you just want to break it as Keria is jumping on over. There is no turret here, mind you. And so Keen deciding that he's going to need to try and turn this. There's a paranoia as Keen moving towards this Sun Disc, and they realize that there's no Nocturne coming because he just wasn't in range. They tried to fake it out, and Keen now going to press that Counter-Strike button. Looks for a bit of a stun, but I mean, he was always going to die. And now a Baron is being started here by T1. They are wasting absolutely no time with this.
T1's macro on point again. And where is the entry point for BDD? He really needs to get in here.
Yeah.
He's on a flank potentially.
Does have a teleport available, but it's going to be very, very late away as Aiming's trying to kite them as best he can. Nature's Grasp comes in. That's the Baron going to T1. Can they get out of here is the question. There's a flash Pop Blossom onto two, but they're two pretty tanky boys as Zeus pulls Aiming out of this fight. He's going all out, and Aiming is trying to get this kill, but he's not even going to be able to. And BDD dies to Faker in the process. Cuz is flashing in, but it looks like it's out of frustration. I think Carrier might die, but it takes them a while to even do that.
Oh man, Zeus is playing this game so beautifully. Keeps aiming out of the fight, gets out perfectly with the flash, and now just gonna teleport back bottom side here to again deny Keen the ability to take a turret. Top side, he tries to get the turret there, get that side lane win condition online, denied by Faker's Emperor's Divide. Bottom side here, shut down by Zeus' teleport after Zeus just hard carries this fight. Look at him walk towards Aiming here menacingly, see the opportunity with the Nature's Grasp coming through to pull this AD carry out. The exhaust is on. And look at this, over the wall, Q3, Aiming pulled in, and he just cannot follow up on the Pop Blossom, so BDD is dead. And even with these low health bars here, Zeus flashes to get out, shields to block that damage, and Cuz just trying so hard to make something of this. And yes, ultimately, Aiming will get Carrier, but it's a Baron going over. Nobody else goes home in a body bag, though, with BDD's engaged completely nullified by Zeus pulling that Ezreal out.
Yeah, and Zeus is now looking for Keen here as well. Ona will come from behind the turret, and Keen is just being bullied. Cuz gonna move in. There's the Nature's Grasp. His Counter-Strike's pretty powerful, as it turns out. So Carrier, he's gonna go in as well. This inner turret, not long for the world, will be taken down. Keen survives, but his structures are certainly not. True Shot Barrage going to stop a few backs. There you go, pretty high value. But it's 5,000 gold, the lead for T1. They have not let up, and that was all based on just one pick onto Keen, so they get to go over and take themselves the Baron.
Valdez mentioned it. I mean, this is still a roster of players who pushed DRX to the 5th game in the World Championship just a few months ago. I mean, it hasn't even been a year yet. This team had some issues after the spring season. There was the MSI, issue, right? T1 wasn't able to perform at the peak that we saw from them in spring with a little bit of a meta shift. And then, it's been a rocky season for them. They're just breaking 50-50 in terms of their win rate. A lot of those losses, of course, with Poby in mid. They come into playoffs as some consider them as underdogs. I didn't really consider them underdogs against D+, but in this series, they massively were. Is Pop Blossom?
Yeah, gonna land on a Faker, but otherwise, BDD is just dead.
He's just dead. And going back to my point, I mean, T1 are showing up big, and we might have an upset on our hands here. I mean, 5,000 gold the lead here right now for T1. They look unstoppable. There's no entry point for BDD in these fights whatsoever. He tries for one there, but they are just too far behind. And KT has spent a whole regular season being out in front, out in first place. There is no behind for this team, and yet in this best of 5, they're tested for the first time in a longer series, and I think they're falling apart a little bit.
It's not looking too hot right now. 6,000 gold is the lead here for T1. The Baron has worn off, so I think the base is going to survive for the moment. But we are well and truly running on the last ergs here. And I think Ona can just come over, take himself this soul point very comfortably by himself. And KT's composition doesn't have a lot of comeback mechanics, right? Like, yeah. I think this very early Ezreal pick is what really worries me the most. Because if that's where we are, if Zeri and Kai'Sa are banned, then Aiming is definitely that weak spot that we were talking about earlier on.
No, absolutely. It's not the first time. We saw it this season. We've seen it on other rosters for him in the past. And his return to KT, was one that was, I think, celebrated by a lot, and then he recovered a lot from that really shaky playoff series against Gen G, and then bounced back in a meta that was, okay, he plays Kai'Sa, he's a really great Kai'Sa player, he's like, this is my meta, this is my time, played incredibly well on a lot of other champions, isn't coming up big in this game. To be fair, not out of his own fault, but the draft is warped,
Yeah.
Not you know, this game is not warped by his play, but the draft doesn't give him the agency to make an impact, and they're reliant on this Ezreal pick for comfort, and it is certainly an issue, Atlas. I completely agree with you, and like the control we saw from Faker on the Nico last game, the Nico is a champion that relies on having the ability to engage, and from this far behind, BD has been less than invisible. He's trying to be invisible here as a ward. Big green eye on the map, but I think the eye is only seeing KT's 5,000 gold deficit.
I love it. It's absolutely fantastic. He's now going to relocate. Look for an opportunity. He's going to be spotted on himself.
This is what he has to do to try to hope for an engage. Like he's basically just furthering my point as we speak of it. He just can't ever find an angle in this one. And Faker is so big, he just destroys him.
No, he absolutely does. Thankfully, we are going to see BDD actually move away from that warded brush that he was sitting in. That would have been very, very sad if T1 had have just sort of walked up there and killed him as, okay, we're warding over here instead. Okay, fair enough.
This is a feast or famine type situation for whatever team falls behind is famining. And yeah, he's really just trying to do something, and the fact that he's not showing on the map really does keep T1 honest. They have to be really careful. They have to move together as a group, but not too stacked up and clear vision. But it does mean that ultimately when he does show here, they're like, okay, move those wards forward. Baron spawns in 20, and they were hoping for greedy T1 group up to try to put deep vision here, and then maybe he could set up for an engage with the paranoia, but T1 don't take the bait. They don't make a mistake. Now they have this group up on Baron with the choke point control. The BD is nowhere near where he needs to be. He has, of course, the dash cannon and flash to try to look for a really long-range engage, and they have a Galio here to follow up.
Well, True Shot Barrage is going to discover that this Baron is being taken. BDD going to get a bit of a snare onto Zeus. As Cuz dives in, he'll deliver a gargoyle as well, as Keen wants to find a counter-strike. They get into the backline as Faker takes a fair bit of damage. He then dives forward. Gumayusi gets a double, and KT are too busy trying to deal with Zeus to be able to do anything about it. And Zeus might die. No, he's not. He's absolutely fine. Keen's going to be able to take down Faker, but not before getting a good old patented thumbs up. And T1 back on the Baron now, aiming, trying to get to work. Misses a whole bunch of Qs. And if Zeus just comes over and kills him, that would be so very sad.
Oh my God.
He's going to do it.
Oh,
going to help out.
Oh man, I don't know if you recover from this, KT. I don't know if you're coming back. You got absolutely dunked on in game 2, and in game 3, the same is happening, but it's been more finesse from T1, not just an early lead with a Rumble taking a 2,000 gold lead at 8 minutes. T1 just absolutely dumpstering them here a little bit, I have to say, and this is not close. It's not close at all.
Well, it's not. There is still more to play for after this, but this is looking like T1 are turning this series on its head. A lot of low health bars, though, as T1 do get out of here. Sentinel going to turn up. There's the paranoia. BDD looking for that angle if he can find it. As there he goes, headbutt just to get rid of him. Carrier's going to go golden. Taunt does come through onto Zeus, but he's so tanky. And the wallets are starting to really get heavy in this one. Ona dives forward. Oh my goodness, a passive getting him all of his health back. And Ezreal from back in the base is trying to help out with a True Shot Barrage that does absolutely nothing. 10,000 gold is going to be the lead. And T1 are just pushing for the victory.
He's picking up a death cap, but he's not going to get to use it. He is not getting any big pop blossoms this game. Excuse me.
Pop blossoms.
Plop blossoms in this one. Unfortunately, T1 just dominating here. Zeus showing up tonight. He is absolutely in peak form right now. He's got Anathema's chains built up, and T1 just taking out these inhibitors. The road to victory here for KT now so much longer, so much more distant. Felt like walking into this series was going to be expectations for many, a 3-0 or 3-1 victory for KT. The road was paved with a weak win from T1 yesterday over D+ with having rocky early games, but the early games in games 2 and 3 were anything but, as Cuz is just trying to buy space for a Lehen's ult here so they can get Keen and BDD in here. Zeus, by the way, who's really the main character of this fight.
Yeah.
A level up on BDD keeps him at bay. 1v2's aiming. Like, let's pan over to the real hero here, who actually then kills the Nico, and yes, Faker does go down here. Consolation prize, kills the Nico, and then Carrier baits aiming back in, and he actually makes the play here and kills the Ezreal with all of the...
Họ không có cái tầm nhìn thực sự ở trong khu vực hang Baron, cho nên khi mà họ vào lúc đó con Baron còn hơn 3.000 máu thì Cus cũng chẳng thể nào làm được gì khi mà Tiêu Anh đã ngưng